Hey Lauren,
Hey Sammy, how are you?
good. How are you?
Yeah, well, thanks. How was your
Exciting
Easter?
times.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it was good. The long weekend was good. It was weird not going out and like I had my brother-in-law come over and deliver some hot cross buns, but they like just drove up to the driveway, handed
Oh,
it to us, and we just had a chat in the driveway,
it's
which
all
was
a bit
really weird.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a bit yeah, it's a bit weird times, but it was good. Like we saw, yeah, brother-in-law saw Tan's parents. They came over as well and had a bit of a chat. Had some video calls as well with family in Melbourne, which was nice.
Nice.
So had like a bit of a lunch sort of thing for half an hour. We're all just eating and on the
Oh,
video chat, which is cool. So
nice.
yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
How
very
was
strange.
yours?
Hi.
Yeah. Hey Stu.
That's you.
Yeah, it's good. I did so my brother lives in the States.
Yep.
So I was up at 6 a.m. yesterday morning so that we could get him and the rest of my family all on this video chat. So it's weird, but it's good.
That's all right.
Hey Joe.
Hey, yeah.
Hey.
Guys, I hope it's all right. I'm just going to record this just so I don't have to take notes. So I hope if you're not cool with it, that's
Oh no,
let
all
me.
good.
How everyone have a good Easter?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, yeah, nice, quiet.
Yeah, couldn't do much.
Nice.
A lot of family walks.
Yeah.
I've never walked so much in my life. It's just like every day.
I'm going to be so fit by the end of this.
That's so true. I saw this thing. I was talking to Rosie actually, and she was like, "I'm just going for another fucking walk." She's like, "I'm so bored of going for a walk around the block." It's so funny. I think we're just waiting for Joe, so just give him a couple of minutes. But basically, I think purpose of this chat is, as you guys know, we are pitching for Bungie. We've got through to the second round, so RFP now. The focus of it is on launching the next kind of iteration of Destiny 2. So basically, at the moment, I'm just trying to get into understanding the game, understanding how people play it, understanding kind of what the appeal of it is, and any kind of barriers to it and kind of general perception of the game. So Sammy sent a very useful Reddit thread at the weekend, and I went down this rabbit hole of Destiny 2 content. So I feel a little bit more informed, but I thought it'd be good to chat to you guys anyway. Might just.
Joe can't make it. He's got a kick off for AIS
Okay,
right now.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. We
That's
can
cool.
just anyway. It probably won't take an hour, but I just put some time in case we feel very chatty about Destiny. Okay, so you guys all play the game or have played the game in the past? I know Joe said you hadn't played it for a while, but you're picking up again.
Yeah, I played it
Yeah.
a while ago, and then I played it when it first came out, and it wasn't free to play, and then I played it again yesterday just to remind myself what it was like.
Yeah, nice. What I kind of wanted to ask you first is if you were to summarize it in like a sentence or I guess a couple of sentences, how would you summarize it?
Stu, do you want to go first? We'll go around the table.
Yeah. Shooting things to get better gear with your friends, basically. I think it's dressing up with friends might be a like flippant way to put it, but it's basically collecting, like it's the collection aspect and doing it with a group that you've probably been playing it with for about 3 or 4 years at this stage.
Yeah. So would you always play it with friends, Stu?
Nowadays, like it's I think to get to like the hardcore levels of collection and get like finishing the late stages of the game, it's social only. You really need a group. I don't know if you can now, but it used to be before you couldn't even publicly match in groups for like the top end of the game. So you had to go and find people you knew to play through the like biggest challenges.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Cool. I might come back on some of those bits in a second, but who else wants to summarize how they talk about it?
Cool, I can go. So to me, Destiny's basically like a sci-fi RPG, so a role-playing game. It's all about just it. So Bungie have got a very big tradition of being the best first-person shooters in the industry. So that's the reason why I jumped on in Destiny 1, because I just really appealed to me how it was really like futuristic. It was Bungie. They had the creds. I played the demo that first came out on Destiny 1. I was hooked pretty much straight away, and it's all about just looting up, getting gear, building your gear score, doing it with friends, or you can do it solo. So I did it solo up in the first interim of Destiny 1 because a lot of my friends didn't like the sci-fi genre. They were more into like the real Call of Duty, like the real life war type vibe stuff. And then when I got to the end of the game, I needed to find friends. As Stu said, you needed to find people to play the end game content. So I started looking primarily on Reddit, and I found a group of friends that I probably stayed friends with after playing with them for probably 3 or 4 years. So I was regularly jumping on every like Tuesday night was a reset. We would jump on, do all our nightfalls and our raids and trying to get better gear. Then Destiny 2 came out. Destiny 2 essentially was the same thing, but just way more polished. I sort of lost interest after Destiny 2 just because they didn't do it too well. It was sort of the same thing. The friends that I was playing with, they didn't have kids. They were on literally like 24/7, and I sort of started getting no time to play the game. So that's when I started dropping out. And that's why I've stopped sort of playing Destiny 2, and I haven't really bought the last 2 DLCs. It was really time is the biggest thing, and I think that's probably one angle that we should try and go with this pitch is people that have no time. I still would love to play Destiny. It's just too much stuff on the screen and all that crap, but I'm rambling on now.
No, that's good. I've been talking to Eric about it a bit, and I kind of that time thing was something he said actually compared, and it'd be good to get your thoughts, compared to other games, actually you don't need to dedicate like 6 hours for it. You can just dip in and out. Would you guys kind of agree on that more than compared to like World of Warcraft or something?
Yeah, like it's a couple of hours a week, but if you miss it for a month or two, like going through some wikis and everything this weekend to like brush up for this, I haven't played in about 6 months. Oh man, like everything, it's like it's everyone's speaking a different language. There's all these new weird things and currencies, and you need a half-hour briefing from someone just to catch up on what's doing now. But when we're in the zone, I remember, it was 1 or 2 nights a week. We'd play for 2 or 3 hours and we'd get most of what we needed to do done. And then one weekend a month or one weekend every expansion, like just sit down and do the raid.
Yeah. Cool.
And the raid would probably be about 3 or 4 hours long, and you would have breaks in between. So the raid is quite a long piece of content. It's like a really big sort of thing where you go to the end boss, you get the best gear, you look cool, and it's all about looking cool and all that stuff as well. So
the first time you go through those, like if you haven't had it spoiled for you, it can take like 6, 8, 10 hours if you're unlucky. But once you know every time after that first one, like 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, cool. How would you summarize it, Joe?
I got it when it first came out, and then I sort of stopped playing it after like a month or two. To be honest, my main thing with it is like, I mean, these guys covered off what it's about. It's like a role-playing shooter game. It takes elements from games like World of Warcraft, but it kind of puts it on more of a first-person shooter lens, which is, there aren't a lot of games like that, which is cool. Like there's other games like The Division and stuff, but there's not many in that thing, which is kind of what interests me about it. Also, Destiny 2 was on PC, which Destiny 1 wasn't originally. It just, for me, it was really, really, really repetitive. Like a lot of role-playing games are repetitive, but this one was kind of more so. Like you kind of do a lot of these little world events and stuff before you can even start doing those big raids often. And like you're just killing the same mini boss like over and over again. And those things aren't even really remotely challenging. You're just kind of holding down click until it dies, which is kind of what threw me off the game.
Not to be able to get into like the main content then? Is that like get into it?
Yeah, it's the same with every RPG really. Like they make you kind of grind away at some not so difficult stuff to get you ready for the more difficult content, which is fine, but it can get quite repetitive. I stopped playing it, but like this guy was saying, I jumped on yesterday just to kind of see what it was like now, and like my character from when I used to play was lower level than the starting level for a new character now. Like that's how far the game progresses. Like the game is so far along that you now start at level 750, which obviously can be quite daunting for a new player to jump in and you're 750 levels ahead when you don't even know the premise of the game yet.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just, as soon as you get past this like basically 5-minute long tutorial level, 300 things pop up on your screen. It's like, choose a specialization, go pick up this quest, go pick up this quest, go find out what the crucible is, go find out what these guys are. You now have a vehicle you can use. Like, you're just immediately like, holy shit.
Right.
Which I think can kind of throw people a lot. I mean, it's a similar thing in World of Warcraft in a lot of ways, because they give you like a max level character. And I know World of Warcraft have started doing these little YouTube videos that kind of explain some of the more complicated elements of the game in very straight terms, so new players can kind of wrap their head around what the content is, because WoW does have a similar, like, you open the game, if you're a new player, you would just be overwhelmed with things to do, which is how I felt yesterday. I'm going to play it again later today and kind of see if I can wrap my head around everything that's going on. But
so would you say then, like, or it sounds like Augusta saying is that if you played it regularly, but like it might be a couple of times a week for a couple of hours, like that's kind of the best way to play it, rather than playing like a massive, like a few days for like 8 hours a day, because you still have to get over those initial hurdles again if you've had a break. So it's like little and often is probably the best way to play it.
Probably,
yeah.
You're doing like a sustain, like you sustain yourself through like the ones in 3-month seasons now. Might be 6 months. You know, for that, when a new season comes out, for the first week or two, like you're hammering it. It's a full-time commitment nearly. But then once you've seen everything there is to see in that, you kind of sustain yourself with a couple hours a week. To stay on top of like the weekly challenges that they throw up and anything that's ongoing. But every time the new expansion comes out, like there's a big rush on it again, especially from the long-term guys.
And Joe brought up a great point as well with the bombardment of just like everything on your screen popping up. You just don't know where to go and what to do, because I think the great approach to this is we really need to make it, this new version of Destiny, the free-to-play version, needs to be simple. It needs to start almost at level 0 for these people. Like, we want to attract new audiences. We want to make it in a way where, like, I've been playing Borderlands 3, which is another competitor to Destiny. It's sort of like a similar RPG, but there's no armor and stuff you need to rank up. It's all about the guns. That's really what you need to rank up. But what I love of what Borderlands have done is it's very simple to go, okay, I want to follow the main quest. There's a main quest tab. You follow that only. And if you want to do side missions, there's little dots on the map that you just make. You go to that little dot and you can play a side mission. It's very distinct in the coloring and stuff like that as well. And I think, Borderlands 2 do it very well. Destiny, I think, not Destiny, Division, which what Joe mentioned as well, is another competitor in the market. They're exactly the same, but they're all about modernized shooting and stuff. Division are all bombarded. There's so much crap all over the screen. It's very hard to follow the main missions as well. So I think this new free-to-play version needs to, we need to pitch it in a way where it needs to be simple, easy to follow. If you just want to do the main missions again, do them all again. But then we also need to think about, there's this hardcore freaking people out there that play this game for 8 hours a day. And there's people like Dado, who's like a YouTuber. He's probably the biggest for Destiny. He does all these tutorials and all this stuff, and he's a hardcore player. This is his job. And I think we need to stop pitching it like people playing Destiny 2. It's not a job. It's meant to be fun. And a lot of people see Destiny 2 as a job now because you need to put so much time into it.
That's what I was reading this morning, how there's a perception that it's being made for streaming rather than made for playing, as in like it's like enjoyable to watch people do the harder challenges, but not so good for like easy entry. Okay. So in terms of like how you personally play, what are kind of the key elements of it that you like get quite excited by, that you, when you're like, or like Stu, when you got into it yesterday, or Joe, when you picked up again, were you like, once you started playing it, oh yeah, I remember this, it was great, this is really exciting. Like, what are those kind of key little nuggets that you enjoy?
Yeah, like Bungie are just really good at what they do and have been for like a very, very long time. Like their shooting mechanics are pretty much still like best in the industry. They listen to feedback and fans. Like that part of the mess they find themselves in with all of that giant like mess of things to do when you log in is because they've just been trying to make like build on top of things and make things like more accessible as they go along, working off an existing system rather than being able to start from scratch. So they take feedback seriously, and the experience always seems to improve as you go along. But like the base of it is just really, really good. Like it's just fun. Like there's all, even when you're doing horribly repetitive things, like the base level of fun that you're having there, I think sits pretty high compared to a lot of other games, especially like RPG where combat doesn't offer as much, where it is just click, click, click.
Yeah.
And then they put a lot of effort into lore and storyline, and I'm not a huge fan of Destiny's lore and story. It's just a bit much for me. But they go to so much effort and so much care and consideration for it that if that's your thing, like they're really catering to it.
Okay.
And it's generally, it doesn't feel like you're just grinding along a lot of the time. Like you still feel like you're having fun. You're not just doing it to tick off some boxes. It's still at its core fun, which I can't always say is the case when you're going through games like that.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you. How about Joe or Sammy? What other bits you kind of get really excited about with it? It's okay if you don't have it. Like if you actually played it yesterday and you're like, nah, it's not for me. Like that's like we can talk about that as well.
I mean, this like the shooting is satisfying. Like the game is visually beautiful. It looks really nice, but like with any game, it can look beautiful. But that sort of wears off within a minute. But yeah, I guess I had a similar sense of like, I really can't be bothered to do this. It just immediately felt like a chore, like from the second that I opened it, which kind of comes back to that whole like they really just need to manage how they seed the content out to someone who's just created a new character, because I was like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? It's just like 500 things to do. I don't know if you've had a look at this. This is kind of separate to this, but if you go on this, because I don't know if this pitch is for the Shadowkeep expansion or if it's for like another expansion they're releasing. But this Shadowkeep expansion is getting fucking rinsed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
so
people hate it. That's how
I can link you the Steam page where you can see some more like player reviews rather than like professionally written reviews, and people are just like one of the reviews that I can see here is this expansion is as fun as a funeral.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of negativity around it at the moment. Like I was reading about people saying they're kind of resting on their laurels and relying on kind of fan loyalty and kind of like just people who've played it for years. Is that something you guys would agree with?
They're in an awkward spot. Like they independent in publishing about 18 months, 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And this is the first expansion where they've done it all on their lonesome, and so their content-wise, there wasn't as much there as there was the last one. Yeah. And delivering less for the same price never goes down very well. And it kind of focused on some of the multiplayer elements, like the competitive multiplayer rather than the cooperative, that isn't a lot of people go to Destiny for, or just find when they have to do it, it's kind of a chore. Because that's where hardcore people are playing. And like, it's been out, Destiny 2's been out, what, 3 years, 4 years? Destiny is itself has been out about 7. And so if you haven't been, like, the skill gap between normal people and people who have been dedicated that whole time is so massive that it's just no fun to jump in if you're still if you're just picking it up, and if you're then forced to go into that environment just to tick off all of the boxes for the expansion, like it becomes really painful.
Right. Okay. Something you were saying there about content. So again, talking to Eric about it, he was saying that with Destiny, a bit of a barrier is actually you can quite easily get to a place where you're almost stuck and you're kind of like, I've done everything now. There's not much more to it.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys have kind of experienced with it as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah. I think the problem is, right, like everyone wants this game to work, and a lot of the people talking on Steam and Reddit, they want to play this game, but the problem that Bungie have is they can't pump out enough content in time. And I think with this pitch is we can pitch them this whole cool, like, oh, we should do it like this and you should make this sort of content. But the problem is to make the content takes a lot of time, and I think they try to always make like, the story follow and all this sort of stuff. But I think they need to take a different approach with this new Destiny that they're going to, release. Like this free to play thing is all about. Because I'm just going off Borderlands, because Borderlands was so much freaking fun. The new Borderlands 3, I played through the whole story, every mission, every side mission was different. But that took 7 years to make that sort of game. And the thing is, they don't have 7 years to do this. They've got 3 months to pump out a new season, get a whole bunch of new, cosmetics and stuff in there. And I think that's probably the wrong way to go. But then, hey, how much time do they have to reinvent Destiny? We don't know. It's like a bit of a hard place at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to, I guess, Joe, what you were saying, and I think all of you kind of said it, you played it and then you stopped. What made you stop when you was suddenly like, oh, I've had a bit of enough of this now? What was the reason for
that? Me and all the people I played with, like, pretty much collectively stopped at the same time. So I played with like a group of like 5 or 6 guys that I went to high school with, and all of us still play games together, and we kind of moved from game to game. We got Destiny 2 when it came out, like pretty much like the day of the release. It's kind of, I guess, like, content blocking away. Like when the game first, like, I don't even remember how high this was, but when I logged in my character, I was level 685 or something. And that was like from when the game first came out, and we'd done a bunch of like the kind of more end gamey content, and then all you could really do to get your level up and get better gear was these rinse and repeat scenarios, doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So then we started doing more of the Crucible, which is like the PvP element of the game, which is cool, but it doesn't really, to me, it's not really better than games that are designed PvP first. So you're kind of doing the PvP as like a, hey, I've done heaps of the PvE content, I can do some PvP stuff. But like if I'm going to play PvP shooter, I'll go play Counter-Strike or Battlefield. Like doesn't really have the same.
Does it feel like a bit like it's just kind of add on, like, yeah, you've done this, have something else, have a bit of something else, like, rather than it's kind of integral to the whole game in a way?
I think a lot of games that have PvP as like a secondary element often do kind of have it feel that way. Bar kind of like World of Warcraft, but there are a lot of role-playing games where PvP is secondary and it kind of shows. And I would say Destiny probably falls in that category, but I haven't played it in 2 years. So the PvP may have improved.
I
don't know.
Okay. So most of you play it with friends then? You when you were playing it, you wouldn't really play it on your own? No.
I played it on my own a little bit because the group that I played with back when Destiny 2 launched, they were very hardcore players. Like the day that the DLC would come out, they would finish the whole DLC in that day. They would stay up for literally 20 hours and play the whole thing. And I played it for I think the game launched at like 3 a.m. So I got up at 3 a.m. because I loved the game so much. I jumped on with them, played for 5 hours, went to sleep. They didn't sleep, they kept playing. I got up and then I jumped back on. They were finished the game. They were playing the raid, or not the raid, they were playing like strikes and stuff. And I think that's what got me out of playing Destiny. I just had the wrong player group to play this with. So then I tried to play it by myself, solo, because I still loved the game. And I could only play it so much by myself. But the thing that I go back to is Borderlands 3 is I played that whole thing by myself, the whole story, all the DLCs by myself, because it's all story driven. It's all just really cool to play with. It's all just looting up guns and that's it. So that's why I stopped playing, just because the hardcore players, and I just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, okay. So if you were a new player, because this brief is mostly about focusing on getting new players in, and I think broadening out the audience a bit. If you were to play on your own, then it sounds like it'd be quite an overwhelming experience and quite hard to get into. So would you say that actually if you're a new player, it'd be better to have a group of people to play with who are on the same level? You can't really play if you're different skill sets.
Yeah, like it'd be it's a better thing to jump into as a group of newcomers. Like if you have friends who have played before, it just feels like they're kind of grabbed you by the scruff of the neck and dragging you through.
Yeah,
like that's when I play with my mates that are still pretty hardcore into it now. They're like, "Oh, great, come and join us. Here, do this," and you're just kind of tagging along while they carve their like super characters through everything, and I just kind of stand at the back and go, "Oh, I'm not really doing much here." And then you get some at the end of it, and they're like, "Okay, we do that 5 more times, and then you'll be able to, you'll be up to what we're at." And it's just
doesn't work.
Not fun. I think actually one of the old Borderlands games, I kind of had the same experience. You'd have one mate that just played too much and he'd be 5, 10, 15 levels ahead of you, and they just drag you through all of the content. So it's much better as a like group of newcomers.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's mainly the overwhelmingness. Like playing the story content, and there's a lot of it now, like especially Destiny 2, and like if you come in new, there's, I don't know, 30, 40 hours of like story missions probably. And you can do it all by yourself. It's just as soon as you sit down into it and do your little tutorial, you have no idea where to go. Like it's just all like dumped and unleashed on you, and it's like, hey, enjoy. And there's no kind of guided experience.
So you wouldn't say there's much guidance then, because I think something I was reading, and again in one of my Reddit explorations yesterday, was people were saying that you can't really, there's a perception you can't play it your way as much as you used to. It was a bit more prescriptive, or would you disagree?
I haven't dug in like to how it is now as like that new player experience, but it still seems very overwhelming when you come into this, and like you can go and find out what order everything came out in and go and play it through like that, but it's still all available right there. And I think that's a problem Bungie has to solve. It's the problem with they went free to play halfway through a release. They made massive changes. Like I think they're kind of stuck in this until the next Destiny game. That's still like Destiny 2 was to Destiny. They were kind of stuck with this really horrible repetitive system that they had to just wipe out and start again rather than like building on it. And I think they're in the same spot now. They're trying to build on top of what they've got there and make it as good as they can, but it needs burned down and reset to get to where they can be.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, when I show you the game this Arvo, Lauren, I'll show you what we mean by like how much stuff is on the screen and how many missions there is to play. Like I've got, I think 30 something quests that I need to finish, and I just look at them all and go, where do I start? And then when I try to start one, I don't know, like it gives me a little green dot on the screen to go to that place, but then when I go into the planet, I don't know where in the planet I need to go, so I need to explore this whole planet and look for this one. Like it's so overwhelming. That's why I sort of stopped playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go on the Bungie website, there's like a section called New Player Guide, and if you click on New Player Guide, it's like ludicrously long. Like,
oh really?
It's so long. Like I couldn't even bother to read the New Player Guide.
That's not good.
Bungie over communicate sometimes. Like I read. I read a like where Destiny is at update that was like a 20-minute read the other day, just trying to catch up with it. And like, it's great if you're in on it. They're so good to the people that have stuck with them and like listening to their hardcore fan base and keeping them happy. But it's the kind of lost track of what it's like for a new person coming in and just how overwhelming all of it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's one angle that we can probably go with this pitch is, the thing is, Bungie are similar to Isobar. We've got like veterans that have been in our industry for 10, 15 years. Like Eric has been around since a Flash developer. He knows this agency like the back of his hand. They've got veterans that when they do their videos of tutorials, like there's this one guy that created all the supers. So the super is this thing where your character leashes out this like, you know, amazing ability that kills everything. And in his video, the way he explains it, you can see how passionate, and he's all like, oh, I love it when he does this lightning and he does all these like, you know, hand gestures and stuff like that. But they've got a lot of veterans that are still at Bungie. And I think they need to do like this pitch or this new game should be all about we're the veterans of this. We know we made these mistakes. We made it too hard. It's all about simplifying this new game, making it so it's fun to play with your friends. Jump in, play a couple hours a day, and jump off, and it's all good. You're not going to miss out on stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely think that's kind of the approach. They sounds like they take.
Personalities in the studio that become like well known amongst fans. Like, they've got like the people that communicate regularly become like the community people, like become almost folkish, like to like the hardcore community. But then like all the designers, I think like the lead designer now has always been really good about being open in communication and explaining where things are going. I mean, they've been through some pretty rough times with Destiny and had to do a lot of like, we're making this better and we hear you, we promise kind of statements. And that's built up, I think, if not trust, at least respect between fans. So those are the kind of voices you've got to use, not just in times of disaster.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. One thing I was going to ask you about is trailers, and whether you have seen any that you think are particularly interesting, whether you think the role of trailers in advertising these games is still important. General kind of thoughts on trailers in general for you as a gamer. Like,
well, I see a lot of them.
Yeah. I think Destiny are incredible at trailers. So they did live action trailers when they first launched Destiny, and they kept that live action sort of vibe through Destiny 2, and those were incredible, but they're very high production. I think PlayStation paid for a lot of that as well. So the live action stuff is really awesome, but I think that they're very good at trailers. They're definitely, but the problem is there's so much to show of Destiny, like they just get a bit too overwhelming as well as the game. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of at a spot as well where everyone knows what Destiny looks like, and there's only so many cool ways you can show people getting shot and explosions and, you know, grand space battles. So, like, it's a very well-known quantity in that people kind of, if they haven't jumped in it already, I don't think they're going to based on like another trailer, but also aren't really the spot to like explain all of the nuance of a new expansion. So
for trailers, for me, like I almost exclusively look for gameplay trailers. Like unless it's like the first look of a brand new game that like has never been out before and I've never even heard of it, I might watch the cinematic trailer because I want to get a sense of like the world that they're trying to create and stuff like that. But like if Destiny 2 were to release a new expansion, I'd probably just first look for the gameplay trailer because I know what the game's about. The cinematic trailer never really tells you much except trying to get you excited about it. I'm sure that doesn't count for everyone who plays games, but I'm definitely more of like a just show me what I'm going to be playing kind of person, which kind of applies to pretty much every game that I play.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good point. I'd do that as well. So the first trailer I would see would be about the world and get excited for it. But then after that, I just want to see gameplay, but no spoiler type vibes. Just show some mechanics, show some, you know, awesome supers killing enemies, and that's about it. And if it looks fun, then I would want a demo. Like a demo is a big thing. Because that's how I got into Final Fantasy, the new remaster that came out. I never liked Final Fantasy. I never thought about it. I saw a trailer for it, the gameplay, it looked kind of cool, and then I played the demo. The demo got me hooked. I love the combat, and that's what made me buy the game, and then I bought the game after that.
Okay. Would you all demo games before getting stuck into them? I know it's slightly different with free to play, but
if it's available, but a lot of games don't offer demos.
They don't do that. Yeah, it's a lot of time.
It's pretty rare.
I've played demos recently is when I was an almost certain purchaser of it anyway and just wanted that early taste. Like the Final Fantasy demo, same reason. As soon as that was out, I'm like, yeah, I got to get this because I just want to taste of this. It had, like, I was buying that no matter what, regardless. I can't remember the last time I played a demo just to, like, because I was unsure.
I mean, you can do like 24-hour, I think it's like a certain amount of hours you can refund on Steam now. So you can essentially turn most games into a demo, download it, play it. If you don't like it, you can refund it.
There's a lot of free games in that now as well, that if you really want to play something, and that's kind of a better experience than a crafted demo.
Yeah. On that point, Stu, when you said like you just want to get a bit of a taste of something beforehand, do you see many games or publishers like doing anything to give you a taste aside from trailers or aside from demos, or is it very much here's this big amazing game?
It's all bloody Twitch stream now. If you want an early look at something, they'll just give you like 3 hours of somebody playing it through on Twitch, which I got a kid. I don't have time to watch 3 hours of Twitch streams, unfortunately. But I think that's proving to be pretty successful. And for something like Destiny, that actually works really well. But yeah, for me, it's for something like this where it's expansion based, it's kind of hard because you can't give away much of it when there's already not a lot of content to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. Like I think it's more people talking. Yeah, people word of mouth, like podcasts, Twitch, YouTube, kind of building hype for games and just general anticipation rather than like specific one-off moments that make me like immediately turn to shite. I need to follow that.
So is that how most you'll if you're wanting to play a new game, is that how would you take your recommendations? Would it be from things like podcasts or would it be from chatting to friends? How would you choose which game you're going to play next?
I think influencers are a big thing. So there's an influencer that I follow called Skill Up. He's an Australian guy. And he also does a thing called Layman Game. And he recommends a game. I almost would go and check it out. I pretty much trust his opinion, and I've built up trust with him over the last sort of year and a half now. Just because he has similar sort of pace in games that I like. So I think influencers is a big thing. If an influencer says something and says, "Oh, check out this game, it's awesome," I would almost go out of my way to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at reviews online. Like, I read a lot of like PC Gamer, and then if the reviews are like good enough, then I'll usually go on Steam and read some of the like actual player reviews. Because I think the good thing that Steam has that I guess you don't get from a publication is that Steam, you can sort by reviews and you can sort by recent reviews. And sometimes they're not the same. So like at the moment, Destiny 2 on Steam as a game has like overwhelmingly positive reviews. But then if you look at recent reviews, they're like overwhelmingly negative because people are responding to the new expansion. So you can kind of, I think they even do like a chart of how people reviewed a game over time. And that kind of influences my decision as well a bit, just seeing what other people are saying about the game, because they'll usually describe what pisses them off about it. And if it's the kind of thing that doesn't really concern me, then I'll just ignore it. I'm like, I don't really care about that.
So what you kind of say, like both Sammy and Joe are saying, like you'd find, like with an influencer, you do kind of find one that aligns to similar things that you like and kind of how you play and your level. Same with reviews, you kind of find like the bits that align to how you play and work it out based on that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, most like it varies for like who you're talking to, but most like AAA games like Destiny 2 is pretty much every single person who plays games will know about these games. So it's kind of less of discovery and more of like what do people think of the game.
Yeah.
There's big gaming conferences like E3. Basically every single game comes out in the wash there, and you kind of know what's coming out for the next 2 years almost. Yeah.
So it's not to do with awareness at all. It's finding the details that are gonna make it.
Which is why it's kind of weird, this Destiny brief, because it's like treating it as a launch, but I would argue a lot of people know what Destiny is. It's just they need to reframe how people think about the game.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's many people out there like even like, anyone who's like moderately interested in games or more hardcore, like they know Destiny. It's
Yeah, yeah. I'd be
I-
very interested to have heard of it.
I don't play games, and I knew enough about it to know what this pitch, and now in a day
Yeah.
become way more informed. Okay, cool. This is all really helpful. Thank you, guys. Is there anything? Those are kind of my key areas. I guess what you've kind of said is that like it's quite an overwhelming game if you step away from it for a while. When you come back and it's very overwhelming, you kind of feel very bombarded. And I guess the key thing there being needing to simplify it for new players or returning players a lot more. I think you said some interesting things about like when you're looking at games, being able to experience them a little bit more before you play them. Interesting that you all play socially, but needing to kind of match levels when you're playing socially, otherwise it takes the fun out of it. So I think there's some really interesting things that you've said, actually. I think that's super helpful, and I'm slowly building my understanding of Destiny a lot more. That's wicked. Is there anything else you think is really important to know, or any thoughts you have on Destiny before we kind of wrap up? But I think basically I'll keep tapping into you and asking you a few questions over the next couple of days, if that's okay. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to share now, that'd be awesome.
I guess one thing that's kind of in my head is I know that like because this is essentially a marketing brief, right? Like they want us to change the perception of Destiny 2 in comms. And they're treating it like a launch, even though it isn't really. The only thing that's kind of in my head, and you know, I'm sure there's a solution that we'll come to, but at the moment it's something that I'm struggling with a little bit. Is if you look at games that have a bad perception or aren't doing super well amongst audiences, like they can say whatever they want, but unless the game itself changes, it's pretty hard to like do anything, because that's really what people look for in gaming comms, like what you're actually doing to the game. Like if you look at like there's a game called Warframe that like it came out and people hated it. It was like a free-to-play game. There's some similarities to Destiny 2 and Warframe, but people really didn't like it. And so the gaming developers went away and they basically changed the whole game. Like they rebuilt it, they changed the mechanics, they changed how it worked, they re-released it, and then they did a big campaign saying, hey, look, we heard you and we've changed it. And now it's like massive. People love it. Like, because they actually changed the way the game functions. The same thing happened with No Man's Sky. Like, that was like the biggest marketing blunder in video game history, over-promising on this game. And the only way they fixed it was by actually changing the mechanics of the game.
So they basically just shut up for 6 months and fixed the game and then relaunched.
Totally, yeah.
Like, that was just that we can't say anything. They just got themselves in trouble every time they talked.
But hey, Stu, you were saying that Bungie, they're pretty good at like listening to feedback and implementing it as much as possible, right? I know there's restrictions in terms of what they can do because it is so quick in terms of that turnaround, but they're known to be a company that listens. Is that right? Would you say?
Yeah, they're just they're really unique. They've just got a lot more trust and respect than a lot of developers. Like they kind of sit not quite, but like around that Blizzard kind of range where people are fans of them as much as of their games, and they've just like their track record of acting on feedback and when their game is crap, fixing it like is something I think needs to be leveraged. Like they're the type of group that can probably get away with coming out and saying, trust us, we make this better. And it's the kind of comms that I think they need, rather than like here is a like full relaunch. Like they're a really well-known entity, and they hold a place in gaming that few studios do, and they need to kind of leverage that.
Yeah, okay. That's really, I think it's a good point, Joe. You're right. It's like, it's not like other products where you can just do like a slightly kind of smoke and mirrors job around it and convince people that it's a great product. It's like, it won't work if we try and do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the best that we would do is get players in. Like if we mislead people, essentially, people will download it for free and then they'll quit before they've spent any money.
Yeah.
I think the thing is gamers aren't dumb. They're all very, very switched on sort of community, and the community is the biggest thing. Like you can really like back in the end of the, like Destiny are great, or Bungie are great at listening to the community. But I think the problem that Bungie are doing at the moment is they're trying to cater for too wide of an audience. So they're trying to cater for the hardcore, crazy people, like these whales that spend all this money and stuff. And then they're also trying to get a whole brand new fan base and free to play, sort of like they don't fit in the same category in a way. Like they're just, I think they need to focus and narrow their focus down a little bit. And I think really the biggest thing is they need to redo a lot of mechanics, get rid of all the craziness in the game and make it really simplified. Have modes that are very distinguished. Like, you know, the way Call of Duty do it is there's like a very distinguished PvP, and if you want to do PvE, you go into the story. If you want to do this, you go into this funnel instead of just having it all over the joint.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And they can't, even if they bring in all these new users at the moment, like the community response is so toxic right now that if you get into Destiny and start thinking, oh, yeah, sweet, this is all right, and then you start looking it up online and all you see is people whinging about it and complaining about it, like it's going to color the perception, and you just kind of see a community at its worst.
Yeah.
So it's on them to fix this, and I have full faith that they will. But yeah, it's a difficult spot to be in for like pitching if they want us to make it appealing to new players.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they've kind of skimmed over the negativity in their brief. So how much we call that out, it's going to be interesting. But yeah.
Campaign be for the 2020 expansion, or will it be for, because Shadowkeep came out in like 2019, I think.
They're what they've written is like they want to create a proposal for us to relaunch Destiny to free to play in October 2020. So it's basically a fresh take on how we communicate Destiny to a new audience.
I reckon there's probably a new expansion coming out around then, and they're just keeping it a little bit under wraps for now.
Yeah, they've been very quiet the last month or so. They haven't. A lot of the community's like, Tunji, you aren't talking to us. Like, what's going on? But we know why now, because they're launching this whole free to play thing.
Yeah,
which is already free to play in a way. So it's a bit hard to relaunch again when it's already been launched as free to play, which is another challenge that we have to think about.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. So are there any other information that might be interesting? But yeah, I think there's probably more to it, but they're using that as the overall brief, and then if we were to win, we'd go into detail of the expansion, I reckon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. That's really helpful. Again, as I said, I might have a few more questions for you and like sense check some stuff with you over the next kind of couple of days. We're going to brief Creative tomorrow. I think that includes you, Joe, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, just kind of working through it today, but that's super helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.